Yes, welcome back, valued customers. Right now I'm going to show you a game between MRJobe and Stockfish, Stockfish level 8, played in January of this year. It's a very interesting game. I think you'll enjoy it. Stockfish, of course, being a very, very powerful engine. This is Stockfish at level 8. It's currently at level 37. They've had quite a few iterations since then. They skipped quite a few levels because they just didn't like the numbers, frankly, and they went straight to 37. They did 9, then they jumped over it. They jumped through many of them. So anyway, as you'll see here, what you see on the board is a very, very precarious situation. White, MRJobe's playing white, and black, Stockfish 8, is dominating the board. This is one of the most powerful chess engines that's out there. It pretty much destroys GMs, and they don't really have much of a chance. Sorry, I'm getting up. My eye is a little watery there. So anyway, as you see here, white is pretty much stifled. He doesn't have a whole lot of mobility. He doesn't have hardly any control of the board whatsoever. He only has a few moves, pawn moves, and maybe some rook moves over here. While black, of course, has all these moves. He can move this bishop all along here. He can move this bishop here or down this way. He could actually attack the king. I mean, we're in a very bad situation here. I mean, if he gets this chance to move, he'd take this. The queen would have to take. The knight would take that, and you're down. You're pretty much hopeless. Well, this whole situation looks hopeless anyway. But somehow, during this game, as you see, this is in the middle of the game, Marshall was able to finagle away to end up with rooks, 6 rooks on the back rank. I've never seen this before. I mean, the moves he was making just spectacular. You will never see it again. I don't think I will, at least. So let's go over this game. Let's see what Marshall does to try to thwart this terrible position. So let's do it. The first move Marshall makes is to actually trade rooks. So he moves up and takes the rook on h8. Stockfish, of course, has nowhere to go. He has to take back on that rook. Marshall then moves another rook into the line of into the h file in order to attack the queen, the king again. Now Marshall, of course, he's looking at this and he says, "This is hopeless. The only thing I can do is keep checking the king." So that's what he does. I mean, basically, you're looking at him and you're like, "Hang on, what are you doing, Marshall? You're just trying to extend the game to the inevitable conclusion of loss." Well, yeah, as you see, there is really method to his madness. I mean, there is some form of Macbeth running here. So let's see, or is that a dagger I see before me? I don't know. I don't see any daggers. I don't think I've ever really actually seen a dagger in person, but let's just move this next move where Marshall moves the pawn. Once again, the rook to move, once again put him in check, and he sacrifices yet another rook. This is all he can do. I mean, he's like, I'm just going to keep on checking, and you're going to keep on moving, and I'm going to keep on checking, and you're going to keep on moving. I mean, just boom, boom, through the course of this game. Once again. Check, check, check. Now, as you see here, Marshall is, sacrificed, 4 rooks, of course, exchanging the first rook, and he just keeps on doing it. Like, what are you doing? Now, this is a pretty interesting point in the game. At this particular point in the game, it looks like Stockfish has given up, but maybe Stockfish has something up his sleeve. He's sacrificing the bishop. There is no coming back from this. There's no protection of this bishop, so Marshall just takes. He comes and he sacrifices another bishop. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, he can still move his king out of the way. And I was looking at this, and other people who were analyzing this game were stunned at Stockfish. Like, what are you doing, Stockfish? But there was a reason for this. Finally, when they saw it later, they went, oh, Okay, that's why he did it. So he sacrifices another bishop. What's he going to do now? He slides his king over. He doesn't want to sacrifice his queen. He's like, that's not a very nice trade. Of course, I need to keep my queen just to be able to do something. But what does he do? I want you to take a look. I want you to spend some time. I'll give you 10 seconds to come up with one of the most amazing moves in chess in the 21st century. Of course, yes, he does check him again and sacrifices yet another rook. He's just, what is he going to do? He has to continue to check him, otherwise the game is pretty much over with all these pieces just down here pounding away on the pawns. I mean, he could take this pawn, that pawn, that pawn. He could come back for slam, bang. And then this is pretty much, death incarnate right here. But you see, think, well, the queen is protecting this pawn, so even if he came down and he hit this, and he could actually hit it right here, well, he's going to take the queen, but he's still got all these pawns. He would have a knight and a rook just to destroy the board. They could piece the board back together again afterwards, but once you destroy a board, it's not really going to be the same. So let's look at this now. What is Marshall going to do? Is he going to move the pawn right here up to attack that pawn and maybe hope that Stockfish doesn't take his pawn and keep it from kinging? Of course, he could always bring he can't bring the king over because it would be protected by the pawn or blocked by the pawn. But this is one of the most amazing moves in chess I've ever seen. He slides the queen over. You say, well, isn't this doing the same thing? Isn't this the same exact situation as before? Well, not exactly. Look at this. He's sacrificing his queen. He says, something is going wrong. I've got to stop it. And you'll see what was going wrong. Marshall takes the queen, forcing only one possible move. He has to move his king over, and Marshall slides up the queen into the h7 square, protected by the pawn. The king has to slide over one more space. Checkmate. Checkmate. I was just flabbergasted. I said, how did this happen? How was? I still can't figure out how all the rooks got on the back rank, and how he was able to move all these pieces, and how all these pieces were moved over, and the rooks were in the back rank, though these pieces were moved down. It looked like terrible. What is he going to do? But he pulls it out of where. I don't know. You might know where, but he pulls it out of someplace, like, I don't know. And he ends up pulling out this game. So so there he was, my friends and cohorts. One of the most amazing games you'll ever see. You'll never see it again unless you have some kind of board editor. And thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good week.